All right, here we are in a week 5 preview, getting set for the weekend and a really good one in the Big 12. Welcome into the late night college football show here at the Voice of College Football. You know the deal. Comments, questions are welcome. Please leave those in the chat. We're talking TCU and Arizona State to start us out, but we are wide open for everything in college football. So again, comments and questions, we got the call-in link there in the chat. But we're leading off with undefeated TCU. We got Melissa Treebwasser from Dave Campbell's college football there in Texas. Melissa, how are you doing?
I am doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right, maybe a little bit out of breath, but one of those fire drills just to try to get started. Oh, I don't know, about 5 minutes late, but appreciate you
Hey,
standing
we're
by.
here. We're here. That's all that matters.
We are here, and TCU's here, that's for sure. Uh, Undefeated. I did catch the game against SMU pretty much every play. Big day for Eric McAllister in particular. I'm counting 3 touchdowns, and I believe he had a ball taken out of his hands in the end zone for an interception, and he really probably did catch another touchdown pass.
He was
That
robbed. ACC officials,
Yeah,
call him
he was
out.
robbed. There you go. Could have had 5 touchdown passes, so
Yeah.
a huge day for him, and of course Josh Hoover with a nice day as well, with over 5 touchdown passes for him. So talk a little SMU. That had to feel good after giving up 66 to those guys last year.
Yeah, I mean, this was the final game that is on the schedule for the Iron Skillet rivalry, a rivalry that's over 100 years old. If you're going to have a rivalry game end, you want that trophy to stay on your side of town. So I think it meant a lot to TCU. Obviously, there's SMU having their coach that brought them back out of the death penalty come over to Fort Worth, and SMU obviously put on a clinic a season ago, and so for TCU to get that win and to kind of have to gut it out and grit it out a little bit, I think was huge. And at the end of the day, they're 3-0. They finished their preseason undefeated. They're one of only 2 teams in the country to play 11 Power 4 games, and they've won their first 2. So not the prettiest game, not the best game I've seen TCU play, but Eric McAllister made 2 massive plays late. We saw Jamel Johnson pick off 2 balls after Kevin Jennings had a near perfect 3.5 quarters, but Johnson made 2 great plays. So it's really hard to be great every week, I think, in college football, but you want your team to be really good when it counts. And TCU played a really great fourth quarter, and that was fun to see.
Yeah, now it's always difficult to pinpoint what are going to be the biggest games in this conference because it's so even. But this one hit me, and about 2 minutes before I DM'd you on Twitter, because I thought, man, oh, okay, we got this one on Friday
Yeah.
night. This is a good one. TCU, Arizona State on the road. Of course, Sun Devils got tripped up outside the conference, but within the Big 12, obviously, we're just getting started. So this is a game I don't think we saw last year, correct?
No, this will be TCU and Arizona State's first time playing. I looked this up for my show on Sunday night. I'm pretty sure it was 1935. So either 1935 or 55. So it's been a while. Arizona State got that first one. So a little time for some revenge, hopefully, for the Horned Frogs Friday night.
All right. It's been a while
Been a
coming,
while.
but yeah, this one of these new matchups in the Big 12, and this one, yeah, should be a really good one. So, based on what you've seen out of the Horned Frogs the first 3 weeks, obviously you made the trip to Chapel Hill to check out the enormous win against
Yeah.
North Carolina after giving up a touchdown. Then it was all TCU from there. Then the kind of week off against Abilene Christian, then this big win against SMU. So based on what you were expecting out of this team, now that we're a quarter of the way through the regular season, what's sizing up in what departments in meeting expectations versus maybe some concerns?
Yeah, I mean, Josh Hoover's good. He's really good. He's potentially elite. I think it's almost inarguable at this point that he's a top 5 quarterback in college football. I mean, he's certainly the most underrated quarterback in college football. He's put up 3 consecutive really incredible performances. And even when he was not his sharpest on Saturday, I mean, he did not look like the Josh Hoover we saw against UNC and ACU, against the best pass rush he's faced. But he wasn't super sharp. And you look up and all of a sudden he's got 374 yards and 5 touchdowns. So So Eric McAllister helped him out a lot, with those two big long breakaways. But Hoover has been really good. The offensive line has held up in pass protection, I think, really well. SMU is the first team to really get to Hoover and cause him to move. But Kendall Briles did something with Hoover we have not seen in his 2.5 years as a starter, and that was unleash his legs. We saw him run for a first down on a 4th and 4 early in the game. We saw him scramble to find open throws down the field. The first touchdown to McAllister, that was on a scramble and a kind of a broken play. And he used his feet really well to evade pressure when he needed to, and just kind of went toe-to-toe with Kevin Jennings, who is one of the most dynamic players in college football and probably played his most accurate game of his career on Saturday against TCU. So I think the offenses look good. There's some question marks in the running game. Trent Battle came in and he was really solid. Jeremy Payne and Nate Palmer have had some good runs. John Denman's a true freshman, but according to the injury report that was coming out just kind of right before we started recording, Kevorian Barnes is going to miss a second straight game at Arizona State, and he's been kind of the downhill runner and the chain mover of this unit. A transfer portal kid out of UTSA that was incredible his freshman year and then kind of struggled through injuries and not being fully right the last 2 seasons. So that's a big loss for TCU offensively. There's just not that kind of hit the hole and go guy with Barnes out. So it'll be interesting to see schematically what they do against a really, really good front four at Arizona State and a really good linebacking core. But I'd say the offense is the thing I'm the least worried about because Hoover and McAllister and Dwyer and Manjack, is playing with no socks, no gloves. I was shocked he has a helmet on sometimes. I mean, each of those guys has had a 100-yard game this season. So the offense seems to really be clicking. Defensively, I still have some questions. The pass rush, I think, hasn't been super elite without the blitz. They were without Zachary Chapman on Saturday. Let me look. I should have checked that. I do not see him listed on the injury report going, so he should be back. That's huge for the Frogs. The linebacking core has been solid, if not spectacular. But I have a lot of faith in Caleb Elarmzor, and Nnamdi Obiezar has been around forever. So those guys are really just fundamentally sound. And then the secondary we thought would be a great strength. Give credit to Kevin Jennings, who threw in tight windows and was super accurate. But we've seen both ACU and SMU kind of have moments of having great success against that TCU secondary. So I think there's another gear for that unit to take. Channing Canada got dinged up a little bit as far as he gave up some big plays. Avery Helm is going to be out again on Friday. He's barely played this season. So that's probably my biggest question mark defensively is can they bother Sam Levitt, another really mobile, athletic quarterback, and can they prevent the big plays, especially when you look across the line of scrimmage and know Jordan Tyson's going to be out there. So I don't think we've seen TCU secondary play its best of what they're capable of playing. I wouldn't say they've been bad, but I think there's another level where they can really step it up in conference play.
The latest best game in the Big 12, Arizona State taking on TCU Friday night. Melissa Triebwasser, you can catch her work on Dave Campbell's College Football. And since we got you here, and obviously we just stepped into conference play, had some good games. Arizona State with a walk-off against Baylor last weekend was a big one. Iowa State off to a good start. What are your initial impressions of the Big 12?
I mean, I don't understand why people crap on this conference, to be frank. I know it's not the SEC, I know it's not the Big Ten, but when you look at the caliber of quarterback play that we've seen, when you look at the fun games that we've had, when we look at what they've done outside of conference play, how successful the Big 12 has been, this is a really fun college football conference. This is what it's supposed to be like, where literally any team can go into any stadium and win on any given Saturday, with the exception maybe of Oklahoma State, but that's a whole other show. Poor pokes. Hey, but shout out to Doug Meacham, interim coach. Nobody deserves that opportunity more than Doug. TCU fans obviously super fond of Meach and what he did for TCU throughout the year, so excited for him. But yeah, I mean, I think it's still a really wide open race. I think you have to say that Texas Tech kind of separated themselves with what they did at Utah this past weekend and what they spent. Their defense might be the best in the conference, which seems almost sacrilegious to say about the Red Raiders, but they're really good. They still need to be tested more. We're still in the point where we don't know, is Utah good and Texas Tech really ran away from from them in the fourth quarter, or does Utah still have some question marks but beyond Dampier? And we don't know yet, but Tech is good. Iowa State probably has one of the best wins of the season with what they did in Ireland and what they did to Iowa. I mean, that's a really good team that's well coached, has a veteran quarterback, and has some dogs on defense once again. Arizona State, I mean, this TCU-Arizona State game is going to be a separator, I think, in the league as well. And people have kind of written off Kansas, but, outside of what happened at Missouri where they just kind of fell apart late, Kansas has played pretty well and looked pretty dominant. So there's a lot of good teams. I think BYU, we can't write them off. Obviously, they're playing a freshman quarterback. And so we'll see, TCU, we'll see them in November. But, when I looked at the schedule at the beginning of the season and what I thought were going to be the scariest games for TCU, none of those look quite as scary as they did back in August. At Kansas State, obviously, I'm not going to put anything past that team. That's a well-coached unit. But this Arizona State game will tell us a lot about both teams, I think. And I think you can elevate the winner of this game to kind of that third position, maybe behind Texas Tech and Iowa State when it comes to making a trip to Arlington.
And when you said Josh Hoover is one of the top 5 quarterbacks in college football, Melissa, I wasn't ready to fight with you at all because I did a quick scan and I'm like, yeah, he is. But I thought about the chat and I thought if I got on here before you jumped on here and said, everybody name your top 5 quarterbacks in college football, there'd be people scratching their head going, man, I can't put Cade Klubnik in there or Drew Aller in there. They've not been good this year. Who am I going to put in there? And most people wouldn't give too many quarterbacks in the Big 12 a shot. But I'm running through the list. And this kid that stepped in at Texas Tech, Will Hammond, on Saturday, he can sling it.
He's pretty good. Now he also gave it away against TCU in Fort Worth a season ago in a similar situation. But he's a redshirt freshman. I think Hammond's going to be good. And I don't know, Joey McGuire is going to be in a really interesting position depending on how long Baron Morton is out with what do you do? Morton has been there. He's fought through so many injuries, but he can't stay healthy, can't make it through a full season. Meanwhile, you've got this young quarterback that I'm assuming you paid a lot of money for who has all the talent in the world. But when you're trying to win a championship and all the pressure on the world is on you to win a championship and you've got the schedule you've got, do you just take that risk of going with the young, unproven guy, or do you try to force the veteran down your throat? I mean, Tech's schedule is incredibly soft based on what we know about the Big 12 now and based on what we thought we knew about the Big 12 going into the season. Anything short of getting to Arlington is going to be a massive failure, not even a disappointment for that program when you consider the investment that Cody Campbell and others have made. So that's going to be an interesting one. But, when you talk about the Big 12 and how underrated the quarterbacks are, I mean, you've got Sam Leavitt, who nearly beat Texas. Now, got a lot of help from Cam Scatterby, who obviously that offense is missing that guy, and we've seen what he's doing for the Giants now and how good he is. But Dampier's a guy who's got some skins on the wall and looked pretty good at times. He's got some adjustments to make. Baird Bachmeier has come in as a freshman, and BYU is undefeated right now. Have they played anybody? No. So we'll see. It's too early to make judgments. But there's a lot of talent. Even Sorsby at Cincinnati, that team is playing a little bit better, I think, than we thought. It's going to be fascinating. But there's only one quarterback in the country who leads the country in yards and touchdowns, and that's Josh Hoover. And so I think if you put Josh Hoover in just about any other uniform, if you put him on any Big Ten team or any SEC team, people are talking about him as a Heisman candidate. It's just unquestionable. The throws that he's making, the plays that he's making. He as he said, that he threw a ball up to Eric McAllister late night game where he got hit and he threw it into triple coverage. And he said after the game, when asked about why he made that decision, he was like, I don't know. I think that was just the anointing of God on TCU that day, at that moment. So he just has that luck and that special sauce about him this year that kind of makes you feel like if it's like watching Baker Mayfield the last couple of weeks in the NFL, right? If he's got the ball and 2 minutes to go and it's a 1-score game, you turn the TV off because you know what's going to happen. He's going to lead you down the field to the win. And that's kind of what Josh feels like right now. He's got a lot to prove. I think he has to make it to a Big 12 championship game to be considered one of the best quarterbacks in the country. But anybody who knows anything about quarterback play that has watched this guy play, any of these analysts, any of these national guys, when you look at JT, I should remember this because he's from my hometown, JT O'Sullivan, former Jesuit great, what he does in his quarterback breakdowns on YouTube, everybody that watches Josh play that knows about quarterback play goes, yeah, this is an elite college quarterback who has a chance to be a pro for sure. And so I hope that he gets a little bit more attention. But my favorite thing about him is he could care less. He could literally, he just wants to play football, go fishing, go to class, and be a good teammate. Like, that's it. He does not care whatsoever.
Well, Melissa, when you mentioned a guy that kind of has something intangible there at the end of the ball game, I think of the guy that you had playing the position in 2022.
Yeah. Yeah. Max Duggan was pretty good, one of those guys, too. And, I think that when you look at the leadership and the intangibles, Max, I mean, TCU's had a lot of those guys. Max, Andy Dalton was another one of those guys. I mean, you can go back for decades and think of those guys that just had that juice about them. And Josh is that same kind of leader. When you look at his offseason and Tennessee came and threw a big bag at him, they wanted him badly. And if Tennessee wanted him pretty badly, that probably tells you everything you need to know. He turned down more money to stay at TCU. I'm sure he got a little raise, and good for him. Absolutely. Like, be what you're worth. But he could have left. He could have gone into a bidding war. He could have come back, and there was a couple players that left TCU that are playing for highly top 5 programs right now that did the same thing. He didn't try to say, you're going to have to match this. He just went to TCU and said, hey, this is what's been offered. And TCU, he didn't say he wanted more or he needed more, but TCU came back and said, this is what we can do for you. And he was like, yeah, I'm not leaving. I'm good. Like, and he doesn't want to leave. He really believes in TCU. He's a local kid. Sonny Dykes believed in him way back when. And it's really special when you have somebody who you look at on the field and you say, this kid's really good. And you talk to off the field and you go, man, this is a kid I'm proud that wears the uniform of the school I went to. And I've had quite a few of those guys over the years.
So Melissa, before I let you go, since you're a go-to when it comes to big storylines in the Big 12 for me for a long, long time, obviously you've watched a lot of Mike Gundy teams hit the field, and we've seen this coming. But and he's had a great career, but man, forever we've been able to write in 8-4, 9-3 at minimum for this program. They just went to a Big 12 championship game in 2023. Now, granted, that wasn't the best team in the world to go to a Big 12 championship game, but still. And here we are, one season in 3 games. And last year's team, as you well know, brought back like 21 starters. Yeah. Ollie Gordon, the rushing champion, Alan Bowman, their starting quarterback, elite wide receivers. They were stacked to make another run in it, and they just fell apart. Is this simply him not adjusting to the NIL era? Because that seems to be the narrative, that that's simply the case, that he hasn't been able to adjust to the new era of college football.
I mean, we all lose our fastball, right, at some point in the other. And it's really interesting to watch kind of what happened at the end of the Gary Patterson era at TCU, to what happened with Mike Gundy in the end of his term at Oklahoma State, and then to watch what's going on with Dabo Swinney as well over at Clemson. And Dabo hasn't even been around that long. Dabo's still a young guy, like he told us last weekend. But at some point, it change or die. Like, wasn't there a whole best-selling book written about that? Somebody made millions of dollars by selling books at the airport that just told you how to be better at life. I think I read it too, though, so I'm just as guilty. But yeah, I mean, like, I think it's not just that Mike Gundy refused to adapt to the era. I think it's also that Oklahoma State isn't necessarily this big cash cow. Everybody looks at the facilities and the investment that T. Boone Pickens made. They're kind of their wealthy benefactor, their Cody Campbell. And when T. Boone passed away, I don't know that anybody has stepped up to do that. Now, the question you can ask, it's a chicken and the egg argument. Are more people going to be willing to donate when Mike Gundy is out of the picture and they feel like they have somebody who kind of understands a new era of college football? Or is there no money coming in so that, and that's why Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy couldn't be successful. So I'm going to be fascinated to see who they target and what direction that they go. That is a program that has had so much success, but isn't necessarily a sleeping giant. That's a really difficult place to win if you don't have full rev share. There's not a huge talent pool in Oklahoma. And while you can certainly dial into DFW in the Texas area, you're competing against, now Houston, Texas Tech, TCU, Baylor, let alone Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and Texas as well. So it's a tough scene if you can't find a way to get that money. You're going to have to pay kids. Stillwater's great. There's a lot of people that really that rave about it. I have a lot of former students there. But, much like Texas Tech, you're probably having to overpay slightly to get people to choose Oklahoma State. And when OU and Texas left the conference, it looked like from the outside that TCU and Oklahoma State should be the two schools that immediately took advantage of those flagship schools leaving. TCU obviously took them a while to get back going, and Oklahoma State, made that first conference championship game and kind of fell off a cliff. So I'm going to be fascinated to see what they do. There's some really great group of 5 candidates in the state of Texas. I think DJ Kitty will get a look, certainly at that job. Will they call in for Kendall Briles, TCU's OC, who looks like an absolute just mastermind the way he's pulling strings in that offense? Maybe. Would they consider elevating somebody like Meach? I doubt it. I think they'll probably try to go a little bit younger, but you can win at Oklahoma State. The question is, can you get the buy-in that you're going to need to finance a roster at Oklahoma State to finance that rev share?
All right, Melissa, while you're on your way out the door, Kaya's World of Sports, I see this comment here where he says TCU should be ranked. And
we are.
Oh, did they get ranked this week?
Number 24, yeah.
Okay. Well, you're going to like my rankings better. I just wanted to double check. I just want to get on your good side. I've got TCU at 18.
Wow. Okay. I'm not going to complain. I have no problem with TCU being at the bottom of the top 25 or right outside of it, because UNC is garbage. I mean, they're just awful. That is a terrible football team. I don't know what Jordan Hudson is doing. I mean, what Bill Belichick is doing on the sidelines there. That's just a bad team. It's poorly constructed. Gio Lopez isn't it. Like, I almost feel bad because that atmosphere was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced for the first 8 minutes of that game. And then those fans deserve maybe slightly better. But, in Abilene Christian, TCU looked pretty bad against the second half. And SMU, I mean, I think that's a team that can be really competitive in the ACC. They're not the same team they were a year ago, but I do think Kevin Jennings is an elite quarterback, so I do think TCU deserves credit for that. Listen, if you finish September 4-0, you're going to be a top 20 team. That's kind of the way I look at it. And then you get chances, Colorado at home, at Kansas State, and Baylor. So like, if you can get through that stretch and you can get to 6-1 or 7-1, you're going to be on the cusp of a Big 12 championship bid. And if you get to, I think this is a year where the conference could certainly have 2 playoff teams. If you've got 2 one-loss teams in Arlington, and the way things are playing out, Texas Tech 12-0 is not an unreasonable expectation. And you could look at a 1-loss TCU, a 1-loss Arizona State, potentially a 1-loss Baylor. I don't think they've lost this. Yeah, they only have 1 loss against Arizona State. And Kansas State, like I said, could still figure it out once they get over the jet lag from Ireland that I think has plagued them for the last couple of weeks.
Baylor lost to Auburn.
Yes, that's right. So out of conference. Yeah. So there's still a lot of good teams in this conference, and teams that I think people will be interested in, and that's going to be the difference between a 1 bid or 2 big Big 12 is how many people care. And you're going to have potentially a Heisman candidate at TCU. If TCU's playing in Arlington, Hoover's probably a Heisman candidate. That's the way they get there. And Texas Tech caught everybody's attention this offseason. So if they lose a Big 12 championship game and they only have 1 loss or 2 losses, they're probably still getting into the playoffs. I mean, that would be my guess, because I think people are very interested in seeing them there.
Melissa, let people know where to find your work.
Yeah, you can find me at @TheCoachMelissa on X, at Melissa Treba on Instagram. I do a lot of photography for Horned Frog Sports as well. And then, of course, the Frogs Insider podcast, part of the Dave Campbell's College Football Network, did a show this last week recapping SMU with Marshall Newhouse, former All-American, former NFL guy, does a lot of NFL radio, and just announced today is back on the call with TCU with Brian Estridge. So Marshall is someone that TCU fans love, and he's always incredible breaking down. So highly recommend you check that out on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Should be a good one on Friday night. Appreciate you stopping by, Melissa, to break it down for us.
Thanks for having me on. Always happy to be here.
Melissa Treebwasser been joining us here at the Voice of College Football for a long, long time, and we appreciate Melissa. TCU's 3-0 taking on Arizona State on Friday night. Jim, thanks for stopping by. Been a member for a long, long time here at the Voice of College Football. That would be for 10 months. Keep in mind, as I run through these Super Chat contributions, that this kid right here went 12-4 against the spread this past weekend. 12-4 against the spread. That's 49-25 against the spread this season. The overall record, let's see. You can make money against the money line as well, folks. Where's my record? 84-16 money line, 49-25 against the spread. You can get my picks as well as Corey Bradham, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace's picks And then also Steve Merrill's Under the Radar selection from Wager Talk. Be a premium member here on the YouTube channel or on Patreon, patreon.com/MarkRogersTV. And I will get you that link in the chat. Or you can purchase those just each week. If you don't want to make the commitment for the month, you can make $9.99 purchase for the picks for 1 week. Not bad. All right. Amazon links in the description section of this video and all the videos. When you shop on Amazon, please use the link that we provide. Got our buddy Dave stopping by to talk Buckeyes.
Yes.
Assuming.
Well, who needs Steve Merrill when we've got Mark Rogers picks, by the way? Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. This is how you afford a palatial estate like Mark Rogers does. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, you have that kind of track record.
I actually think I had some bad luck on Saturday too, or we might have been looking at like 14-2 or 13-3 against the spread.
Nice. I actually didn't do much college. I had some good luck with the pros this weekend, though.
Nice.
Some NFL luck. All right, I wanted to get into it. I have a few games I want to talk to you about. I got a chance to watch your appearance on Mr. Days today. Good to see you go visit the cult leader and talk to my least favorite fan base. But you have to make time for them as well, I guess.
That's my guy.
Yeah.
I gotta stop over there. Sure.
I hear you. So I watched that game in its entirety, and I've got a few observations. First of all, I will say I do think that the team up north pretty much controlled the game. This, it should have been 41-10. I don't know if I'm necessarily buying that. Everybody thinks, well, if we don't make this mistake, if we don't make that mistake, we win by 4 touchdowns. Well, the other team made mistakes too, you know what I mean? But, when the other team makes mistakes, it was our greatness that caused those mistakes. When we make the mistakes, it's our stupidity that causes those mistakes.
Yeah, let's understand the first 2 drives of the game, Nebraska drove the ball all the way down the field inside the 5-yard line.
That's right.
And threw a shovel
0 points.
And came up that short, and then they drove it back down the field and missed a field goal. So I'm not big on that whole business unless if an official made an egregious error and we can say, well, somebody egregiously got ripped off here or something like that.
Yeah,
I will make those little score adjustments to say it could have been this, but you can do that in any football game.
I would say those first 2 drives were kind of emblematic of what was going to come for Nebraska. I did think Raiola missed a touchdown in the corner of the end zone. I believe it was on the 3rd down. Might have been on the 2nd down, 2nd or the 3rd down. We tried to throw like a fade, I think it was, till the end zone.
Yes.
And
our
corner route.
Friends are also forgetting that Neziah Hunter caught a touchdown pass. He was all alone, burned his guy, and his foot was out of bounds.
Right. And not to mention they missed the field goal on the next possession too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, their mistakes are because of our great play. Our mistakes are just because, well, we just make mistakes. I get it. It's interesting how those glasses work. In any case, I thought Raiola did throw the ball at times pretty well. One of the things that I did notice is that their pass rush was very good. I credit Wink Martindale for coming up with a good game plan, scheming up some good blitzes. I do think Moore and Barnum particularly stood up for me in the front 7 for them. I will say, sacks to me, a lot of people make the lazy mistake of saying, well, sacks are on the offensive line, or, our offensive line's terrible, they're getting beat. If you watch the game, there were some instances where Dylan Raiola was maybe holding the ball a little bit too long, and I think that a few of those sacks were on him in watching the game. He did make some nice throws, over the course of the game, and that did bring me to the one thing. And Dace got into this a little bit. I do think you can get after them in the secondary. Mateer was able to go after him a little bit in the secondary in the Oklahoma game. I don't think that they necessarily have the cornerback play that they've had in the past with the Sammer Stills or the Will Johnsons or some of the guys on the back end that they have in the past. I do think they're pretty good in the front 7, but, overall looking at their defense, I do think, if your quarterback's not holding the ball too long, you scheme up the right pass routes, you can do some business against that secondary. I don't know if you have some thoughts on that, Mark.
Yeah, I haven't necessarily seen anything that I thought was horrific in the secondary, but I get your point. I don't know what those guys are ranked in regards to their NFL draft status and how well they're thought of, and compared to guys like Will Johnson and Mike Sanders still.
Right.
I doubt it. But yeah, I haven't seen anything in the secondary that I thought was horrible, but they have been helped out by a devastating pass rush in this game. And like you, I thought that is the best I've ever seen Dylan Raiola throw the football when he even had the time or bought some time for himself. Considering that, I thought he threw the ball well.
Yeah, I did think. I mean, if you graded out his game, I'd still give him about a B. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's factoring in that he did hold the ball a little bit too long, and he did have the one pick earlier in the game that cost them points. So, I do think to the offensive side of the ball and watching them, I think their offensive line, which I guess was intact for this one, did look really good. I thought they played really, really well up front. I did say to the Team Up North fan base before the season started, I thought the Haynes and Marshall combination at running back would be very good for them and very productive. Although I watched Haynes at Alabama, I never thought he was like a top-notch running back. Maybe I was comparing him to, kind of the running backs from Alabama from yesteryear. But I did think that would be a lethal 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I did too. And Justice Haynes has been better than I anticipated. I knew he was a really good back coming out of
Yeah.
Bama. Of course, he wasn't a star there, but I think some of their running back production was stunted by Jalen Milroe's presence. But yeah, obviously, if Bama drafts you or recruits you and you are in the rotation there, then you're exceptional. So I didn't really have a grade on Justice Haynes coming out of Bama. I just knew he was good, that they got somebody good. I didn't have a specific, like, he didn't lean me one way or the other in regards to being overrated or being one of the best backs in the nation, but he's turning out to be that. I was curious about Jordan Marshall coming into this season because of what he did in the bowl game. I was ultra impressed with him there. Now, I think we're seeing a difference between Justice Hayes's, I always get it confused, Haynes's or Hayes's experience
Yeah.
versus Jordan Marshall, but he's starting to find his way, pick his holes better, and he's learning on the go.
Yeah, I do wonder how much of that Nebraska front seven is filled with future NFL players. I will ask that question. Don't know if you're going to see a lot of first round draft picks in that Nebraska front seven, but I digress. I thought they did a smart job by running a quarterback. I will say about the passing game, I still think, some of their play calling was kind of interesting. I actually do think Underwood's got a really good arm and can make the throws and be accurate with the football. The one thing that I still notice up there is I don't know if they have a go-to guy at the receiver position. At least a couple years ago, they had a Loveland or they had a Roman Wilson, with McCarthy 2 years ago. And that's the one thing that I notice is they don't really seem to have a difference maker there. At the very least, they've usually had a pass-catching tight end. They had a couple of decent ones 2 years ago. But I don't see a real go-to guy in the passing game for them.
No, it's their worst position unit on either side of the ball.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any question about it. The offensive line did not have a good game against Oklahoma, but had a much better game against Nebraska, and they aren't playing either. I believe they're both redshirt freshmen at the tackle spots. But yeah, the wide receivers, Shannon Goodwin, he was good for a couple drops in that game. Should have been big plays. They just, for whatever reason, it's not. And I looked at this when that was one of the topics of the offseason, the Michigan wide receiver core being as bad as they were last year and going into this year. We thought that they would have the same issue. And it's not their recruiting in terms of the rankings showing that they've been substandard there. They're just either missing at that position or not developing. And Sharon Moore was asked about that this week, and he said, "Hey, we're teaching these guys the proper technique on how to make better hands catches and how to read coverages better, change their routes, find the soft spots of a zone. We're teaching what we need to teach in the wide receiver game, but it's not looking good at this point."
Yeah, I thought that it's going to be interesting to see how that passing game evolves over the course of the year. You know what I mean? And how much, they can do, how much kind of damage they can do down the field throwing the football. I still think largely their offense is going to be built around the run game. Well, it should be. I mean, they have two really good backs, and that makes sense. And obviously, you kind of have a third back with Underwood's legs and his ability to run the football. So, I could see that. I will say their schedule does kind of lighten up as the season goes on. They don't get Oregon. They don't get Penn State. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think they get Indiana. Do they, Mark?
No Indiana.
So, yeah, I mean, as far as passing games, they're not going to see Moore. They're not going to see Mendoza. The next really live passing game that they're going to see is what, us, the last game of the year? Any team that can really throw the football?
USC.
USC, yeah, that's true. That could be interesting. Just some overall thoughts and observations having watched it. I'm not saying they're not a solid team. I think they're good in some key areas as far as up front, running the football. Obviously, Underwood's clearly an upgrade over what they had last year. But again, that's like being named valedictorian of summer school. It doesn't carry with it a lot of merit because their quarterback position was just awful last year. But again, I have some questions about their pass defense, especially if they face a team that can really sling the rock. And stand up.
No, I would like one of our Michigan experts in the chat to clarify this comment by Ralph Wolf, because they were missing 3 of their top 4 cornerbacks in this game. I watched that entire game. I may have missed the first drive, possibly first 2 drives, maybe the first 5 minutes of the game, but I watched that entire game. I don't remember there being any comments made during this game about this cornerback situation. That's a big deal right there. If they were in fact missing 3 of their top 4 cornerbacks, who is not in this game? I'm leaving that out to our Michigan folks.
Well, it did look like they mixed in some zone during that game, if I'm not mistaken. I think they were playing some zone. They did a good job of like playing 20-20 defense and tightening up in the red zone. I do have to say that. So, but hey, just some overall thoughts going forward. I did want to, before I get to the Buckeye game, Mark, I wanted to comment on Indiana a little bit, if I could. I do think that, I mean, is it me or is Mendoza just that good at quarterback, by the way? And how shocked were you by that particular game? I didn't hear your Saturday comments.
Yeah. I expected that to be one of the best games in the Big Ten this year, let alone last weekend. And I was commenting all week that if I could only see one game this weekend, that would have been under heavy consideration. And I've talked about that game the entire off season because it seemed to be setting itself up as this is the entryway to the elite of the Big Ten. If whoever wins this game will have a bid to say, we for until further notice should be kind of put into that Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State category, and the loser would be discarded. But the loser should really be discarded after a 53-point loss. So I will say that the closer we got to this game, and maybe the Vegas line, maybe the combination of our Indiana guys here at the Voice of College Football leaning on me with all their Indiana propaganda, and the Vegas line was making me reconsider that maybe they would cover the spread and it would be an easier game. Plus me watching Illinois at Duke and not being super impressed with them up front, not being able to block Duke. And not running away with that game until it was late. And then Duke turns around and loses to Tulane. That I started to get thoughts that this would not be the game that I originally thought it was going to be. But no, 63-10, no. Was
Yeah, to drop 60 on Illinois, which is usually pretty solid on the defensive side of the football, was shocking to me.
yeah.
I mean, I talked to some people in the offseason about, how much of an upgrade Mendoza was at quarterback compared to where they were at a year ago. And, it's obviously playing out that way. I was also told that they did make some upgrades, on the offensive line, I believe, during the transfer portal. I don't know if that's what you're hearing as well, Mark.
Oh, they sure did. Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the things that I noticed about Indiana in preparing for the season and doing my little preview prediction videos is you dive into these position groups and that, yeah, they really shored things up with first-rate starters from other schools in the transfer portal along the offensive line. So that was supposed to be a huge upgrade, and it apparently is. And for as good as Curtis Rourke was last year,
Yeah.
they're substantially upgraded at quarterback. Yeah, this seems no joke.
Yeah, I find it interesting to me that that was kind of their weakness, because whenever they met a decent D line last year, and you saw it happen, against Team Up North the second half of that game, where their defensive line really got after Rourke in that game. If they'd have had any quarterback play, obviously that they would have pulled that game out, or any offense, they would have pulled that game out, and almost did in the second half last year. But you could see when they faced, us, when they faced Notre Dame, they really got exposed.
Yeah, they were not up to elite status, that's for sure. But they will get another shot at it, and have an interesting date at Iowa.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting game. Iowa scored 38 points this week, and alert the media, right, Mark?
Well, they got a special teams touchdown thrown in there, so that's one. But yeah, for them to
north of 30 is still an accomplishment, by the way, Mark. North of 30 is still yeah.
They still were sub 200 yards passing, so I don't know how they came up with that point total, but they figured it out. Yeah, nobody's giving Iowa a chance in this game, apparently, other than me, I guess, because we just did a big breakdown of the game on the Iowa show and then into the Big Ten show. And I was seeing all sorts of people overreacting to the 63-10 score for sure.
Yeah, I thought that, I was just shocked. I mean, 63-10, I didn't think, and everybody was, I thought we both thought that we're maybe overhyping Illinois a little bit this year coming into the season.
Well, I picked them 7-5. So,
oh, okay. I didn't know that was your record prediction.
Yeah, I'll double check that. It was no better than 8-4 for sure.
Right. Boy, the Signetti, future job offers are going to be coming in here left and right, Mark? So
well, yeah, and they're adding up. The list is growing.
Yeah, I do have to say. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, by the way, I wanted to get to the Mike Gundy situation. I find it interesting, by the way, that you cut that video. How's that for timing here, Mark? Huh?
Well, I figured that was about, we'd seen enough at this point. I just, you lose to Tulsa, and that just seemed to be the last straw.
The writing was on the wall, I guess, is what you were saying. Yeah. By the way, I'm not going to do the impersonation, so I'm not going to go there. I'm a man of 40. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to try that.
Give us your best, David.
No, I'll save that.
This is the time to do it. You're going to save it. The guy's going to ride off into the sunset. We may never see.
Well, I'll miss his sweet mullet. I'll tell you that much, Mark. Business in the front, party in the back. So it's a nice look. Yeah, it's interesting. He had that one. I remember the 2011 team, how close that team was to playing for a national title with Whedon and Justin Blackman, and that team lost that tough game to Iowa State, which cost them a chance to play for the national title that year.
Yeah, and a lot of people, including myself, still think that they should have been selected with the same record as Alabama and a conference championship.
Yeah, it would have been interesting. Yeah, that gave Alabama, that gave Saban another chance to play for yet another national championship that year, by the way. Open up the door. By the way, Saban did have a couple of times where he got some luck towards the end of the year to kind of help his cause for a couple of those natties. So
That he did.
let's be fair.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I wanted to get to the Buckeyes before I let you go because I did get a chance to watch. Did you watch any of Washington State? I watched about a half.
0.
Oh, okay.
Well, you found time to watch a half. Did you watch it live?
Yeah, it was on the Fox.
Well, I know it was, but
Right.
considering everything else that was on, it wasn't even close to being on my screen.
Well, I thought you had like multiple screens
Well,
there at the
yeah, I
palatial
do
estate
it
going
that
on,
way,
Mark.
sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
I thought
Still,
maybe
it didn't even make the top 3 or 4.
Okay. Well, as a Buckeye opponent, I wanted to see how good the quarterback was because
Yeah.
I've heard good things about Williams, being a good dual threat quarterback, which he is, and the running back looks good. Coleman, Boston, no relation to David Boston, pretty solid at wide receiver. I think they've got some good skill. Defensively, it looks like they're going to have some injuries. I saw their 2 linebackers. They could have a couple of injuries at linebacker and at corner. I'm going to be really interested to see what Sane looks like on the road. His first road game. That stadium can get pretty crazy. So I do think it will be interesting to see the game plan early, how much they choose to feed Bo Jackson in the run game, and how they kind of do the carry distribution in this one. And just how aggressive they are offensively, particularly early in the game. But I do think he's the type of quarterback, and they do have the type of skill that could cause them some real problems. Although I will say, I'm still a firm believer that the back 7 of Ohio State's is still the best in the country when you look at combination of linebackers and corners. Reese and Styles are both NFL guys. I think Reese could be a first-round guy. Downs is the best safety in college football. And Jermaine Matthews is an upgrade over Denzel Burke from a year ago. And Igbenogson is playing much better at corner. So, and I think that helps them match up with what I think is going to be a pretty good passing game. I mean, what are your maybe early thoughts on this one? I know you got the Buckeye show tomorrow.
Yeah, we got the Buckeye show. Good segue there. 11 a.m. Eastern time, everyone, on Wednesday over on the Buckeyes channel. We will do a Washington breakdown. But I've not seen him play one play this season. But I do like Damon Williams. I did think that he was going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the Big Ten this year. The 2 guys that you mentioned with Boston and Coleman, the transfer from Arizona at running back, those guys are good players. I've seen them play many times. Other than that, I don't know much about their defense. And again, haven't seen them play. Ohio State's only an 8.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that.
I was too. Husky Stadium is listed as one of those most difficult places to play under the right conditions. And Ohio State coming to town, I think, are one of those right conditions.
Yeah, I do think that they're it's going to be interesting to see again, how Ohio State's offense comes out early in the game, how aggressive they are. I do think that, it's one of those situations that where if you have a quarterback that gets hot, maybe you have a couple of turnovers, that's the type of recipe for a game that should be closer than it should be, or maybe even an upset.
Oh, yeah.
That's my kind of larger concerns about this one. And like I said, they've got some firepower that could cause them some problems, and it's a road game. I'm somewhere in that 30-something to 20-something kind of score range as I'm thinking about it. 35-24, 38-24 kind of range where it could be a good game for 3.5 quarters.
Yeah, so a lot has been made of some of these young quarterbacks going on the road for the first time.
Yeah.
Bryce Underwood being one of them, and this is Julian Sands' deal right here. His first road start in a difficult spot. So, yeah, I was just pulling up the stats from the Washington State game. Nothing really jumps out here necessarily, but Denzel Boston had a big day. So did Jonah Coleman's a guy that can catch it out of the backfield as well, had 100+ yards receiving too.
Yeah, it was a good game for that. It was actually a one-possession game going into the fourth quarter. Washington State kept it a little bit closer than I thought they would through three quarters.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was 31-24 going into the fourth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thank Washington for stepping it up to cover the spread for me.
Oh, there you go. Part of that hellacious Mark
Yeah.
Rogers record this season.
I did not realize that this was actually a decent ball game.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that it's one of those games where, if you're just not careful and the other team, you make a few mistakes, it ends up being closer than it maybe should. And that's the recipe. This was one of those games that I was leery about. The at Washington and at Illinois, after the three big games this year, were the two ones that were kind of on my radar.
Yeah, this has vibes of, if you're going to think the negative route, and that's the only way to really slice the conversation, because otherwise Ohio State just beats everyone. But if you're thinking about outside of teams on their level, then yeah, the traveling to Purdue, the traveling to Iowa, Purdue is not necessarily a vaunted situation from a crowd perspective, but a night game, and they were up for it that night, of course. And Iowa's one of the notorious difficult places to play, and here we go with Washington. So, yeah,
I'm gonna keep that line in mind. If it dips a little bit lower, I'm playing it because I think they can cover that. Like I said, I could see them winning by at least 10, but it'll be interesting to see the direction of it over the course of the week.
Yeah, if we're just dealing with two football teams and Washington's not able to jump on them early and then get the crowd on their side and get one of those situations that you're depicting going, yes, Ohio State is more than 8.5 points better than Washington.
Right. Hey, last thing before I let you go, Mark, your favorite baseball team just tied the Tigers for first place. And if the season ended today, they would win the division.
Yeah, I got a complete rundown from my buddy via text here a couple hours ago what the deal was. So, yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
If I guess I'll say that.
Well, they're doing it with a very mediocre lineup this year. I will let people know. I do not know how with this lineup they're doing. This is not shades of the '95 Cleveland Indians lineup by any
Okay,
stretch.
so that's funny you bring that up because I was on the phone with my son. This was like 2 days ago, and I go back and forth between one of my best friends and my son and Guardians stats.
No, they're always the Indians to me.
And yeah, my son ran down their lineup. He's like, listen to these statistics, leadoff hitter, et cetera, et cetera. The leadoff hitter, what's his name? David Kwan?
Stephen Kwan.
Yeah. He's hitting 275 or so. And then obviously Jose Ramirez is having another big year.
Yeah.
The rest of it was just, I could not believe the ineptitude in the lineup.
Yeah, Manzardo's had a decent year, but yeah, it's really lacking for offense. I mean, it's really been starting pitching, bullpen, and defense that's got them here so far. So
yeah,
it's the funnest sports time of the year, Mark. I always say September and October because you get end of the season baseball, playoff baseball, and we got football. So
I used to say the same thing all the time.
Doesn't get much better than that.
All right, David.
All right, my friend. You have yourself a good evening.
Appreciate you being here. Yeah, I got to say, I can't give you too much on Washington, surprisingly. But I don't know these teams as well as I typically do just because of a little transition in focus here at the Voice of College Football. So, yeah, I don't. If I haven't seen somebody, I know what I read and I know what I studied during the offseason on them. But in terms of the first 3 to 4 games of the season for these teams, if I've not watched them, then forget it. So my knowledge base on Washington is limited to, quarterback, running back, wide receiver. In terms of the defense, if I looked at the personnel, then, I would get myself reacquainted, but not much there. And obviously they have yet to play anyone their caliber, although, like David said, they played a decent game in terms of a decent, a competitive game against Washington State. Interesting. All right, folks, welcome into the Voice of College Football. We got DeAndre stopping by.
What's up, Mark? Can you hear me?
I got you. What's going on?
Oh, nothing. Man, I told you in the beginning of the year we talked about Clemson, and I told you I really was worried about the offensive line. I never been a K Cupnet fan, and uh, those receivers, I don't know what the deal is with them. They were, everybody said that was the best position group in the country. I think by one team. Um, Even the coaches, even they wasn't real successes as head coaches, but they were good coordinators. Like the guy that came down from did he come down from Penn State or Ohio State? Then the guy that came down from the Ole Miss head coach, that's the offensive lineman,
Yeah.
offensive
So you're
line
talking
coach.
about Tom Allen, the defensive coordinator, coming down
Yeah,
from Penn
uh,
State, and Matt Luke, the offensive line coach from Ole Miss. Yeah. That was at
yeah,
Georgia as well.
they just don't seem like they can get them boys up. If you go look at Clemson, even when they had Mitch Hyatt and Cameron Jordan, you can't tell me any Clemson player that has been a what do you say, a first round pick off the offensive line. We did do a poor job of developing offensive linemen. And Miller and Lay, I'm just not really impressed with them. And I think this is their fourth year. I think Lay is like a redshirt senior. I think Miller is like a junior or something like that. I just haven't been really impressed with them. They just don't seem like they handle physical teams very well. If you go back and look at that Duke game last year when they beat them up at Durham, it might have been 2 years ago. They just don't handle physicality very well, and the defensive line hasn't played well. Woods or Parker have not lived up to their expectations, and I don't even think AJ Terrell's little brother has lived up to his expectations. So
Hmm.
I'm really just not really impressed with the development of the Clemson players and stuff. I know people want to blame Dabo and stuff like that, but I really just don't think these guys have lived up to it. Their expectations.
Yeah. So he's responsible. That's why people blame him. He is responsible.
I don't know. I get like he's the head coach and the buck stops with him, but it's like, dude, you got a lot of talent. It's like what else can you do? Now I can't remember his kid's name, but he's number 5 on defense for Clemson, and he's a converted wide receiver, but he also played receiver and linebacker. And
Talking about Turner.
cop, nah, I think his name Huff or something like that. They're trying to turn him into Simmons or what's the guy that got drafted by the Baltimore Ravens? Um,
Oh, Ronan Hannafin. Yeah.
yeah, it's like they're trying to turn him into one of those players, and he just might not be one of those type of guys. And it's just it, I just saw it coming, and too many people were too high on Clemson. When everybody started telling you how good they were or was supposed to be this year, from you, other sources that I look at through betting, and everybody, like, how many people picked Clemson to have this to win the ACC, and they still possibly could or make it. Like majority of the people were picking that, and when you see that, it's like, do you not see the signs that it might go wrong? And that's what I was looking at. But but the funny thing is, Mark, if they went out and people don't look at this, but they got to play Florida State, and they got to play Florida State's got to play Miami. So they beat Florida State and Miami. They still Florida State and went out, and Florida State loses to Miami. They still have a chance to sneak into the ACC. What's it called? Um, championship
Yes.
game like they
Yeah.
did last year.
They
So
do.
it's not over yet.
No, it's not over, but pretty much every team in college football can get to their conference championship still. We just started playing conference games, but
Right.
they're going to have to kick it into gear. And yeah, losing to Syracuse at home, my goodness.
But 17.5 favorite. And Mark, I gamble because I got your package, and I advise anybody to go look at it. But I have several other people I contacted and other sources I looked at. Everybody picked Clemson to win that game by 17 or more. I mean,
Yeah,
everybody.
I did
I even took
too.
that
Sure,
13.
I
Yeah,
fell into that trap too.
but who saw it coming? Nobody. I mean, nobody can really sit there. Out of all the handicappers that I saw, Mark, and I'm talking about Wager Talk, any other place that you can look, Dan's Rent, anybody that you go to, everybody picked Clemson. You did, I did, everybody, majority of the people, free picks, pick dogs, anything you can name. I have been on there and I researched my picks very well. Even what was like, I think I was in a dispute with you about one pick, and I saw other people kind of agree with me. So I went opposite of you. I can't remember what game it was, but you know, uh, you know,
You went
that was one
opposite
of
of
the
me.
games. Yeah, there's a few times you got to go opposite. You know what I tell people? I watch the game just like you do, and you have more time on your hands than I do because I got young kids and I work two jobs. So a lot of times I depend on y'all, but also I watch the game. I watch enough football, and sometimes I say that don't seem right to me. And like sometimes you have to go reverse of the way people go. Now, one game that did get me, y'all talked about it already. Indiana, Illinois shot the hell out of me. I
Hmm.
was like, Jesus Christ, how did Illinois? I saw
Yeah.
Illinois play Duke, and I thought they gave them a good game, and I thought Indiana might have been a fluke last year because of their schedule, but Jesus Christ, to beat them by like what was it by like 40
53.
points?
Yep.
Yeah, I was like, man, and they didn't even try to move the ball, and they just ran through Illinois, and just knowing that how good Illinois' coach has been in the past by keeping games close, I think that's the only game that I didn't see coming. I mean, there's one game. Some games I'd be like, oh man, I don't know about that one. But another
Yeah.
one that y'all talked about, I agree with y'all. 8.5 in that Washington Ohio State game. I don't understand how they came to that. 'Cause I think Washington only beat California Davis by like 10-7. And I see them play a few times this year, and I'm like, man, I don't know about this one. I said, I know what game it was. Oklahoma State and Oregon. I think you picked Oklahoma State to go less than. I think you picked Oklahoma State at plus 27.5. But who saw that coming? I
No, no,
mean,
no, no. I believe I took Oregon to cover that one.
okay, if you say so, I'm not sure.
Well, it's it's right here, so somewhere. So
Oh,
they're all
hey, if you
there.
say you
So
did, I agree with you. But
I'm not positive about that, but I think I picked Oregon to cover 27 against Oklahoma State. Um, all right, DeAndre. Anything else?
oh no, 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 nothing else, Mark. But I was just saying that man, we and people need to. If you're a gambler, sometimes it's good to have more than one spot, and help work out. Cause I think I'm only one of your $99 one, man.
We got a couple other on board.
Oh, okay.
Got a couple
Yeah,
others on board.
yeah.
Plus, we're letting people know that they can get my picks per week if you just want to go week to week. Patreon just started a new feature, so I was glad to see that we can just do them week to week as well.
How much is it week to week?
I just set it at $9.99, but you're not going to get so you'd have to go each individual person, whoever you wanted to choose from. You know what I mean? So
Okay, I got you.
I don't know how much you want to hear from, the other three guys or Steve Merrill. So
Yeah. Hey, I heard your homeboy just talk about baseball, and let me tell you what. And this has been a very odd year for baseball. I bet on a Nerfy yesterday. I think it was Sales from Atlanta and whoever the Washington pitcher was, and the guy that the first play was a home run. And it's like, oh my gosh. And I was like, I cannot believe this. It wasn't much. I don't really bet much on baseball, but baseball has been very odd. The guy that plays for the Pittsburgh Pirates, he's one of the best pitchers. He got rocked by somebody like by four. He had 4 runs in the first inning, and I was like, oh man, he always good for a nerf. It just didn't happen. So baseball been very odd. I think I just said Cleveland are about to catch the Detroit Tigers. Detroit was leading for the most of the season. So, you know. But all right, Mark, I'll get with you later, man.
appreciate you being here, man. Thanks. DeAndre likes to get my picks. So appreciate DeAndre being here. He's probably watched this show. No, I don't think there's any question. He has been here longer than anybody in the chat. That's for sure. He's been here, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, something in that range. So again, you can buy my picks. Steve Days, Matt Zemek, Corey Brada, they do 12 packs. And then I do about 20 games per week. 12-4 against the spread last weekend, 49-25 against the spread. Hopefully I can keep that going. And then you get Steve Merrill's under the radar selection. All right. We've had Ben waiting for a long time. Plus we're overtime. So Ben, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'll make it quick. I don't get people stressing out when I say people talking about Ohio State fans. I've seen so many Ohio State fans stressing about this Washington game. Washington's defense is garbage. It's so bad. They week 1, they're trading scores with Colorado State. They're trading score. I mean, Colorado State was going up and down the field on them. Washington State, right? I know they ended up blowing them out, but that was a competitive game for 3 quarters. I don't get the trepidation about Washington at all. I think it's going to be a blow.
Well, we're losing you, but I think that, certain locations have been beaten into the head of college football fans as being difficult places to play. And it is when it's in the right atmosphere. And I would think that Ohio State would bring out that kind of atmosphere. And since Washington's still undefeated, regardless of who they've played, people are going to be up for that. So I think it's the West Coast trip and Husky Stadium more than it is the actual football team.
Yeah, so can you hear me all right now?
Yeah, we got you. We got you, Ben.
Mark, here's my thing with this game, right? Their offense is good. Right? Their defense is so
yeah. Now we don't have you. Hey, Ben, you are out now. Give it one more shot. You there with us? All right. Call us back, Michigan man. Call us back. All right, folks, do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. So the lineup on Wednesday is Ohio State at 11. Then we got Miami at 7. We got Florida State at 8. Then I come back for the big show here for the call-in show at 10 p.m. Eastern time. So 4 shows for me on Wednesday: Ohio State, Miami, Florida State. And then we get together for the call-in show Wednesday night at 10 Eastern. See you in the morning. Oh. There were super chats. My bad. My apologies to Daniel. College football is dead. It is just NFL light. but with no rules. So who cares outside of the real hate? Well, yeah, point well taken. Technically, you're a little bit off, but the spirit of what you say, everybody totally gets. Yeah, there are rules, and there are more and more rules being implemented against NIL and to put some guardrails on there. And much of that was implemented this summer, but we get the nature of what you're saying there for sure. And Jackson is here. Here's to the voice of college football getting to 100,000 subs. Boy, that's been the goal for a long, long time. The Michigan and Miami channels getting to 20,000 subs. And here's to the other team channels getting to 10,000 subs. There you go. Thank you, Jackson, for all that you do. You can catch Jackson on the Alabama channel Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Appreciate you all being here. See you for Buckeyes Live, 11 a.m. Eastern time on Wednesday.